I was gonna hold off on a video about this welder because initially it didn't work, but now it does. So I picked this up recently on Facebook Marketplace. I figured I'd give you a little information about it if you have a welder like this, because there isn't a great deal of information about these online. So what we have here is probably late 70s to mid 80s Century welder. Now, before you, oh, that's a piece of shit. It's not. Century became a lesser welder when they were bought out by Lincoln at some point, probably in the late 90s, and became an economy brand. But back when this was made, it wasn't. And while it doesn't say Century really on here, it's missing some tags, and I suspect it's missing the company that branded it, because these were branded by a bunch of different companies. Century, Montgomery Ward, Mac, Snap-on, Craftsman, Solar, and I'm forgetting a few others. So how I know it's a Century? Because it says it right there, and formerly 20th Century. That's the model number right there. Rod types, size. Now what's nice about this welder, besides being 230 amp AC, is it's 180 amp DC. Now there's no switch to switch it from AC to DC. You just pop your leads in, and that's nice too. Some people don't like that that these have cords that you plug in. I don't see why not. You know, you can put a 25, a 50, 100, whatever. This is a real heavy machine, not made to be toted around. These things were made to sit under a bench or in a fab shop somewhere doing real heavy work. The duty cycle, I think up to around 100 amps is 100%, and then it drops down to 20 gradually as you get to 230. So when I received it, I got the stinger and the ground, both of which are in excellent shape. This was not used a great deal. Ground's the same way. And I'm going to pop this cover off in a second. I also got some extension leads over there. Now initially it didn't work, and I'm not really sure why. I had some old rod kicking around, and while I'm not new to welding, I am new to stick welding. And I just grabbed the rods and started getting after it, and all it was doing was laying down some sparks across any setting, AC, DC, or reverse polarity. Bought some new rods, 6011 and 7013, and had the same result. So popped the cover off, and I didn't find anything. So inside, you got two huge transformers and a nice cooling fan right there that's shrouded, and a big heavy switch. You're not going to find that type of switch or cord in any of those Home Depot Lincolns, the 220s. Maybe the older ones, but not the new ones. Maybe one that you buy at a supply place, welding supply. Big wound transformer down there, and an even bigger one in the middle. This rod right here, you push that and it locks your magnet in place, locks your switch selector in place, so that while you're welding, it's not going to change amperage, because it will. It'll go all the way down. So what I did was I took this apart, cleaned it, and I sprayed electrical cleaner all over, because everything looks good. Those all look good, the diodes, all the connections. Big heavy stuff. Now that is not copper. They spray these or paint them with a lacquer. That's aluminum. And everything is aluminum, from what I understand. At least Lincoln was certainly doing it. I'm sure some of the older ones were using copper, and there's probably some copper in this, but those big windings you see, that's aluminum, which is fine. Aluminum is a very good conductor. Anyway, all this stuff was clean and good. I did wire brush inside the electrode ports or sockets. The one thing I did was I took that ground nut out, cleaned that all up on a wire wheel, cleaned up the ground pads, cleaned up the stinger pads, and then it worked. And I welded up a wheel, and it laid down a beautiful weld, better than I could do on a MIG welder. So my investment paid off. The guy was gonna come and take a look at it and refund me my money. I sent him a message and said that wasn't necessary because I didn't want my money back. I wanted this to work. You know, that's the name of the channel. New stuff sucks. This is old. Sometimes it's a challenge, you know, whether it's that engine that's going on that old Thatcher over there, or this Mantis that got put together by two. I tend to avoid new stuff. Sometimes it's a lot of work, and most of the time it pays off. So if you have one of these old welders, or you're considering a welder, you can pick these up cheap. Typically people don't know what they have, especially if it's a Sears, Montgomery Ward. If it says Snap-on or Mac, they're going to want a lot of money for it. But if it says any of those other brands, you probably can get them for under 150 bucks. And these were built to last a lifetime. There's really not much in here that can fail. The smallest gauge wires for that electric fan. I mean, look at that switch, right? Even if a mouse got in here and chewed some of this stuff, you know, they're not going to chew through the windings. So they're worth salvaging. Don't scrap them. You know, and if you see them at the scrapyard from some deadbeat, you know, talk to the guys at the yard. You can probably grab it. I do it all the time. I haven't seen one of these yet, but I'm sure going to keep my eyes open. Found plenty of other stuff there that junkies have thrown away. Get out there, find some old stuff, bring it back to life.